HaShem Itov, Kivat 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 HaShem Itov. Kivat HaShem Itov, 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 Kivat HaShem Itov. Okay, we're live. Let's see, get everybody on. Testing mic. Right. Sure. Oh, stuff right. Kivat HaShem Itov, Kivat HaShem Itov, Kivat HaShem Itov. Okay. Start in a minute or so. Okay, mic test. Let me know if the mic is good. Thank you, both. Let's go on Facebook and the app. Okay, very good. Okay. B'Shem Hashem na'aseh v'natzliach, Shir Torah, Bruchim Habayim. We're back up, Baruch Hashem, and our Wednesday night Stamp the Rabbi. We're after some Divrei Torah that are relevant to the parasha, to the times. Then you guys will start asking some questions, and BeEzrat HaShem HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give us the answers. Tonight's shiur is going to be for the Refuah Shlema for Rav Ephraim ben Shulamit, Rabbanit Sarah bat Anat, Rabbanit Levana bat Sarah, Avi Mori David ben Nesriya, Imi Morati Doris bat Zora, and all of Am Yisrael and all the righteous Noahis that continue to watch our shiurim, to continue to learn, to get closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and sanctify His name. Anyone that wants to join us and help poor people here in this campaign that we have right now for PURIM, we have, Baruch Hashem, quite a bit planned for this PURIM. We have a big learning session that's going to actually happen in Yerushalayim, as well as other places on PURIM, to continue learning, but also to give everybody an opportunity to get some extra help financially on PURIM in Eretz Yisrael. So anyone that wants to help us by using their MaChatzit HaShekel and their MATANOT LaEvyonim, the 2 out of the 4 mitzvot that we're obligated to do on PURIM, much more important than the costumes and even more important than the Mishloach Manot. These 2 mitzvot, the MaChatzit HaShekel and the MATANOT LaEvyonim, are obligation that, especially the MATANOT LaEvyonim. So if you want to help us, you can donate on bhpurim.org. bhpurim.org. That's B as in BeEzrat, H as in Hashem. PURIM is PURIM.org. And just like every year, we have a campaign there to help the poor in Eretz Yisrael, especially the poor Torah scholars, religious families, but of course we also help the non-religious families. Anyone that comes to help, we do our best to help them, Baruch Hashem, throughout the entire year, but especially at these times. So if you want to join us, that's the place to donate. Also, I know that quite a few of you are going to be using the new book that we've been distributing over the last several months. That's both in English and in Hebrew, and you can use it for your Mishloach Manot. So Baruch Hashem, we're waiting for our next 2 shipments to come in, hopefully in the next day or 2. And if you're going to use this for your Mishloach Manot, in so many words, anyone that orders on the Kiruv store between now and probably no later than Sunday afternoon, there's a good chance you're going to get the package before PURIM. So you can add it to your Mishloach Manot and distribute it to as many people as you want. If you need more than 20 copies, then you could order 20 on the website and then send me a message and I'll try to get you more copies than 20. Each box comes with 20. So this is, Baruch Hashem, is going out very fast, and Baruch Hashem, people are enjoying it. There's already a couple of schools that are interested in using this as part of their curriculum, Baruch Hashem. So, like I said, if anyone that wants to order it, you can go to the Kiruv store. The Kiruv store is KIRUVSTORE.org, and you can order a box of 20 for free. We even pay for the shipping. Of course, if you want to help us with this monumental cost of distributing books and USBs and a bunch of other things for free, and the lectures, then of course you could donate on that website. You could donate on the regular website, BeEzrat You could donate on the app. You could wire transfer $1 million if you'd like. You could do a lot of different things. In so many words, if you want to help, you have the ability to do so. If you don't want to help, or you simply can't help with money, you could certainly help with other things, like your time, skills, and volunteering, and doing a lot of other things. But with that being said, we have to get to the shiur, since we haven't done a shiur this week with you guys. Of course, Baruch Hashem, we continue learning, continue teaching, but not always online. But needless to say, we need to learn. We need to learn. This is the Torah, and we need to learn it. But what are we going to learn from a parasha that once again, Parashat Pikudei, the last parasha in Sefer Shmot, the book of Exodus, again talks about the Mishkan. We've talked about the Mishkan already for the last several weeks. The menorah, the Aron HaKodesh, the MaChatzit HaShekel, all of the different things that have to do with the Mishkan. We've talked about it. And again, we're talking about it. But of course, the Torah is endless. Afochba ve'afochba dekulaba. Delve into it, because everything is in it. Literally everything. Not figuratively everything. Everything. And the more you learn Torah, the more you will find the world you live in, including your personal life in it. Even questions that some people like to waste a lot of time on, like is the world round or flat, which somebody asked. Perhaps maybe we'll answer it later today, because a few people have asked this question, and we've answered it, but maybe we'll give them some more details that we could help people with. But if you remind me, maybe we'll do it. BeEzrat HaShem. Either way, the Parashat Pikudei has an enormous amount of Torah in it, but most of it, if you look at it, is something that you could learn from and enjoy the learning, learn a lot of different things, but you can't really, it seems like you can't apply it to your life, so you'll get the reward for just simply learning. Unless you pay attention to the details, which of course, there's musar to learn everywhere. And one of the first things that we learn in the beginning of the parasha, the Midrash says that Betzalel ben Uri ben Chur lemate Yehuda asa et kol asher tziva Adonai et Moshe. Betzalel, the son of Uri, son of Chur, of the tribe of Yehuda, did everything that Hashem commanded Moshe. What do you mean commanded Moshe? You mean that everything that Moshe commanded you? No, everything that Hashem commanded Moshe, meaning that Betzalel got Ruach HaKodesh, to not only do everything that Moshe told him, but also everything that Moshe forgot to tell him. But Hashem told Moshe, to such an extent that when Moshe Rabbeinu saw the work that Betzalel did, and he knew that he forgot to tell him about it, he's like, wait, Betzalel, how did you do this one? And no, I didn't tell you how to do it. Were you listening in on my conversation between me and Hashem? That's how much Ruach HaKodesh HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave Betzalel. Now, of course, a tzaddik like Moshe has to have tzaddikim around him. But one of the extraordinary examples of the righteousness of Moshe Rabbeinu is actually presented in this parasha. In this parasha that seems like it's repeating the same thing, it actually has a new Musar lessons for us to apply and really get ourselves into a better position in life, because a person could be aware of the truth, know the truth, watch the truth with us and learn the truth with us already for the last 10 plus years, but still live a lie. Still live a lie. A person can know the truth but live a lie. Why? Because knowledge is not necessarily something that's going to always motivate a person enough to take action. Where a person can know the truth but still live a lie. And in fact, this is the reason why Rav Kanievsky writes in his sefer called Orchot Yosher that the hardest trait, character trait to master is emet, living the truth. Knowing the truth is not that difficult. Why? The truth is available to us. All you need to know is where it is, which is in the Torah. Then delve into it, and you will be enamored by it. But in order for you to be able to apply this truth to your life, first and foremost, a person has to have fear of heaven, meaning they need to know that there's a consequence for knowing the truth. There's even a bigger consequence for ignoring the truth. Now, aside from that, a person has to humble themselves in order to be able to apply more of the truth to their life. Because even if one knows the truth, in order to live the truth, they have to humble themselves by acknowledging the fact that knowing is not enough. And in fact, the fact that I know the truth obligates me even more. And even though I disagree with the truth, that just puts me in the wrong position, because the truth doesn't change. The truth is not subjective. The truth is not based on your perspective. The truth is the truth whether you acknowledge it or not. And when we tell people the truth, sometimes they take it to heart and apply it, but unfortunately many times they just have a limit. They accept, yes, keep Shabbat, yes, start Mishpacha, yes, make a few donations, yes, learn Torah, but if you said that, that's where their line is. That's where their line is. And unfortunately, Rabotai, that red line where a person knows the truth but ignores it is the beginning of living a lie. Now, living a lie seems like, okay, you know what? He's living a lie, she's living a lie. Maybe one day they'll change. You're right. Maybe one day they'll change. But what they're not acknowledging is the price of the lie could be much more expensive than you can imagine. And that's some of the things we're going to delve in tonight. Moshe Rabbeinu is Kodesh Kodeshim, Ish HaElokim. He's Holy of Holies, the man of God. No prophet has ever been or will ever be like Moshe Rabbeinu, including the Mashiach. Even the Mashiach will not be as great as Moshe Rabbeinu. Nobody will ever be as great as Moshe Rabbeinu. Why? Moshe Rabbeinu is excluded from everyone else. He's an exception. And this is also one of the things that the Torah says, which is one of the greatest proofs, as it's one of the 13 principles of Jewish faith, to believe that Moshe Rabbeinu is the greatest of all prophets, because once you know that, that means that every other religion, every other ideology, every other belief that does not have Moshe Rabbeinu as number one is simply false. So this Moshe Rabbeinu, as great as he is, took Am Yisrael out of Egypt. 10 miracles in Egypt of the plagues. Countless other miracles within the plagues. Hundreds of plagues, 250 more plagues in the Sea of Reeds, as the Agadah tells us, in the name of Rabbi Akiva. Endless amount of miracles. Moshe Rabbeinu shows us the words of God, not just tells us. When Moshe speaks, the voice of God comes out of his voice. Not that Moshe Rabbeinu is God, chas v'shalom. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided to give Moshe Rabbeinu extraordinary abilities, unlike any other. Moshe Rabbeinu's face was shining like the sun, to the point where he wore a mask at all times except when he taught people Torah. When the people first saw Moshe Rabbeinu's face, he didn't realize that his face was so shining. When he came down from Mount Sinai, the people were scared. They thought that just looking at him would cause them to die. Moshe Rabbeinu's humility was unlike any other, as HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself vouches for him that he's the humblest of all people. Even if you find a poor, homeless person, full of diseases, full of trials and tribulations, and you compare their humility to Moshe Rabbeinu, there would not be a comparison, because Moshe Rabbeinu would be a lot more humble than him. The same token, if you compare him to the most successful person, but the most decent human being, their humility will be nothing in comparison to Moshe Rabbeinu. But at the same time, Moshe Rabbeinu was extraordinarily capable. He was extraordinarily powerful, more powerful than the rest of Am Yisrael combined, as we see in this week's parasha, where after they built the entire Mishkan, they all tried to pick it up. They can't. The entire people try. 600,000 people are trying to pick up the Mishkan. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't let it happen. They can't pick up the pieces. They come to Moshe Rabbeinu and say, Moshe, we don't know what we did wrong. Apparently God doesn't like the Mishkan because we did everything you said, but the Mishkan won't go up. Moshe Rabbeinu speaks to Hashem, Hashem laughs and he says to him, of course it's not going to go up. It has to have your hand on it. You alone can pick up the Mishkan. Moshe Rabbeinu goes and picks up the Mishkan by himself. Moshe says to Hashem, how can I pick up the Mishkan? I can't even get my hands around a couple of the poles at the same time. Hashem says, don't worry. You just go, make the effort. I'll do the rest. Why? Your Moshe Rabbeinu is married to the Shekhinah. So this Moshe Rabbeinu, this Isha Elokim, this extraordinary person, does anybody need to speak a good word about him to vouch for him? No. The Torah itself vouches for him. But yet, this very same Moshe Rabbeinu in the parasha does an accounting where the Torah says that Moshe Rabbeinu calculates every single penny that was donated. All of the silver, all of the gold, all of the copper, all of the items were calculated in front of everybody, so everyone knows exactly how much was donated. So no one thinks that Moshe Rabbeinu would steal. No. Moshe Rabbeinu, first of all, he doesn't need to steal. He's already extraordinarily wealthy. Second of all, why would he steal? What benefit would he have? Third of all, why does anybody else need Moshe Rabbeinu to count everything in front of them? Isn't it enough to just tell them, listen, by the way, we got, several thousand tons of gold, several thousand tons of silver, can't you just give them the number? Isn't that enough? Moshe Rabbeinu says no. Why? Moshe Rabbeinu is teaching us one of the mitzvot of the Torah, Naki tiyeh be'enei Hashem u'be'enei Adam. Be clean in the eyes of Hashem as well as in the eyes of man. Where there's a mitzvah, the Torah says, of marit ha'ayin, where a person has a responsibility, an obligation to not only be clean in the eyes of God, where obviously God knows everything that you do, everything that you think, everything that you feel. He knows everything. Your actions on the exterior have to match the interior. You can't pretend to be honest, but in reality you're a liar. You're honest only because it's going to help you get your way. You have to be the same inside and outside. Hashem knows what's inside. Hashem knows what's outside. But that's not enough. Some people just focus on their relationship with Hashem and say, listen, as long as I don't, violate Shabbat, I don't eat not kosher, I don't kill nobody. Apparently, everybody's always making it a special statement of accomplishment when they don't kill people. Like apparently it's become an accomplishment, an achievement if you're not a murderer. I don't kill anybody. I don't steal from anybody. You don't kill anybody, most likely I believe you. You don't steal? Hard to believe. Why? Gemara itself says, most people get caught on stealing. Meaning in Shemaim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees them stealing. No, I don't steal, I'm honest. Whoa, I didn't say that you go rob banks. But stealing is not necessarily only robbing banks. Stealing comes in all forms of sizes. And stealing requires a person to simply not pay attention to details, or even more so, to get used to a certain lie to the point where that lie becomes truth. It's a convenient lie. It's a lie that, they call all types of lies. And unfortunately, Rabotai Karim, this is one of the things that most people fail at. When it comes to truth, knowing the truth is easy. Living the truth is hard. Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to make sure that everyone knows that he's not only knowledgeable of the truth, but he lives the truth. But in case anybody would have any questions, any doubts, any accusations, Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to make sure everyone knows exactly how much money was donated to the Bet Mikdash, to the Mishkan. Now, interestingly enough, Talmidie Chacham by the name of Rabbi Deutsch brings a few midrashim, Chazal, that actually say that silver was more expensive, more valuable than gold at the time of Mount Sinai. Now, of course, all of the silver conspiracy theorists can make a whole party over this statement. You see, we've always told you that silver should be a lot more expensive. It's not right that it's only $25 an ounce when gold is $2,100. We see, I always told you it's going to go to $1,000 now. Look at it. Take it easy. Yes, there are some truth in the argument that silver is much more useful than gold is. Part of the reason is because it's much cheaper. But the reality is that in the Torah we see that silver is used very often, and actually is considered more valuable than gold. But yet gold has more blessing. Why does gold have more blessing? Why did gold overcome silver in price over the last 3,000 years? Of course, this is from the Torah. On one hand, we're saying that silver was more valuable. The price of silver was 2,000 and gold was 25. But things switched. Why did things switch? What's the switch all about? If you look at the donations, we have two types of donations to the Mishkan. Am Yisrael used silver to give the MaChatzit HaShekel, the half a shekel. So this helped Am Yisrael pay for a bunch of different things, but also to do the census. But the amount of silver, quantity of silver, was less than the quantity of gold. There was more gold given by Am Yisrael for the Mishkan. where silver, it was an obligation to give it, because that was what they used as a coin to do the census. Based on the current price of silver being $25 today, Am Yisrael donated about $3.75 million as part of the census. This is 600,000 people giving a half a shekel. On the other hand, the donations from the heart, meaning whatever you felt. You want to give a lot, you don't want to give a lot, you want to just give enough to do the MACHATZIT HaShekel on the BeEzrat HaShem campaign for $12, and you want to fulfill your MATANOT LaEvyonim with just $50 to fill the minimum, or maybe you even found some holiness person that can live off of less than $50 somehow. No problem. You want to do the minimum? Go ahead, be my guest, do the minimum. But then there are some people who say, no, why should I do the minimum? I don't want Hashem to give me the minimum. I don't want Hashem to give me the minimum amount of air, the minimum amount of food, the minimum amount of money, the minimum amount of things that I need to live. I want Hashem to be generous with me. If you want Hashem to be generous with you, you have to be also generous with the Torah, with the creation. The more generous you are, the more Kadosh Baruch Hu will bless you. But generosity, obviously, to the right places. So in this particular case, when you see that you have a lot more than what you need, this obligates you to be generous. Because the reason why Hashem gave you more is so you can be generous. So Am Yisrael was much more generous with gold. Because that was what they used for the tzedakah, for the, in essence, donation from the heart. And this was a value of almost $95 million. $95 million. Now, as far as the reason before this, at this time, the value of silver is higher than gold. So don't mistake or misunderstand what I'm saying to you, that the value of gold was 95 million back then versus 4 million or 3.7 million back then, and that's what Am Yisrael gave. No, the value of the silver was higher. They gave 300,000 selas versus the 87,000 selas of the gold. So they give less quantity of gold. But they knew they needed gold is specifically to do a tikkun of the golden calf. But this was an ongoing thing. This is something that didn't stop here. This is something that they would constantly do over time, and people were much more generous with gold, ultimately giving gold more of a blessing to the point where HaKadosh Baruch Hu made it so that there is several different types of gold in the creation, and gold became much more valuable metal. Now, either way, the most important part of everything we just said is the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu takes the initiative and actually calculates the exact number of gold, the exact number of silver, copper, and everything else in order to make sure that nobody questions him, nobody thinks that he's lying or he's cheating or anything else. Now, this is one of the most important traits that a person can learn from, not just in this week's parasha, but in general in life. And the reason why is because, although, to be honest, is not necessarily always easy, it does come with extraordinary rewards at the end. Whereas to be a liar, even a small liar, ultimately has a downside much greater than the benefit of the lies. Now, Moshe Rabbeinu shows us the 4 keys to success. That if a person wants to succeed in life, whether it's in business or any type of thing that they're building, they obviously have four keys. One, have Hashem as number one. If Hashem is your guiding light, He's every decision is dependent on whether you're afraid of Hashem or you're not afraid of Hashem, whether you believe in Hashem, you don't believe in Hashem, you trust in Hashem, you don't trust in Hashem. If you have that, you already have a check mark next to one. Now, a person would say, no, I love God, but be an idol worshiper. There are plenty of people that say they love God, but they think God is a person, or they think God is money, they think God is it's the wrong address. That's where having the sages, represented by Moshe Rabbeinu, also has to be number two. If a person does not have a rabbi, that they listen to everything that they say, that they tell the rabbi everything that's going on in their life, all the big decisions, the small decisions, and they just simply do things, whatever makes sense to them, then unfortunately, they only have partial truth. They may believe in God, they may trust in God, but they don't trust in God's system. They don't believe in God's system. God gave us a system. What is that system? The system is to have not just Moshe, our rabbi, but all of those that learned from Moshe in every single generation that's represented by the Torah scholars of the day. If a person appreciates Torah scholars from afar, but near, he doesn't have a rabbi. He doesn't have any rabbi that he tells everything. He doesn't have anyone that is able to rebuke him or her. No, he just does whatever he wants to do, and he figures that if he needs anything, he makes a few calls. This time he'll call Rabbi A, next time he'll call Rabbi B. If he likes their answers, he'll continue using them. If he doesn't like their answers, he'll use somebody else. That's unfortunately a partial truth. That's a person that may believe in God, may observe Shabbat, may eat kosher, she may be modest, but she doesn't believe in God's system of listening to the rabbis, no different than the way you would listen to God. And that's what the Gemara says. If somebody actually has a rabbi, they fear that rabbi the same way that they fear God. Now, if this rings a bell in your mind in a negative way, where you're starting to think, nah, come on, that means you don't believe in God's system. That means you don't believe in God's system. Now, what does it mean to listen to the rabbis? It means listen to the rabbis literally as it is. Your rabbi says A, you do A. Your rabbi says B, you do B. Even if you don't want to, even if you don't agree, even if you don't like. Why? Because if you have a rabbi, that means the rabbi wants your best interest. If you don't believe that the rabbi has your best interest in mind, then why is he your rabbi? Now, if you say, well, I haven't found a rabbi that has my best interest in mind, then that is a lie, a sack of lies that you can sell somebody else. Why? If you actually make the effort, certainly you can find a rabbi that's a Torah scholar, that knows Torah, that can guide you and over time get to know you more and more. But the problem is that people will make a lot more investment into their own friendships with people, their own asset building, their house, their jewelry, their vacations, their job, their careers, their hobbies, than they'll make on their rabbinical relationships. So many times people say, I don't have a rabbi, and it's not because no rabbi is willing to help them, but rather because they're not willing to invest in it. Or they're one of these people like we talked about, I think it was last week or a week before, where they're like a leech, where they only want to take, but they don't want to give anything. What is it like? Rabbi Ponovich was an extraordinary chacham, could have easily been the Gdol Ado had he not spent all of his energy on building Yeshivat Ponovich. And he would put aside his Torah, his learning, his life, in order to travel from place to place to go collect more money so the young boys can continue to learn Torah and become big Torah scholars, big giants. He sacrificed his own Torah in order to build the next generation of Torah giants, of Torah scholars, of people that dedicate their life to Torah, big and small. One time when he was speaking to a millionaire, asking him to donate to the yeshiva, where he needed little dollars each month, just to continue running the yeshiva, the kollel, and everything that they have. The millionaire told him, Rabbi, I worked very hard to make all this money. I made a lot of sacrifices to make this money. Why should I give it to you? What sacrifices did you make? Rabbi Ponovich smiled at him and says, I made much bigger sacrifices than you can ever make. I sacrificed my entire Torah. Already as a young man, they told me that I was going to take the place in the next generation after the Chafetz Chaim. I was going to take the seat, the throne of the Chafetz Chaim. But I put all of that aside in order to build the yeshiva. And anyway, each time that Rabbi Ponovich would travel to places, he was an extraordinary magid. Gives shiurim. And then after the shiur, tell people to donate for the yeshiva. One time he came to the States, came to the US, gave a shiur. And at the end of the shiur, one young man, an American, came to him and started speaking some words that he knew in Hebrew, because the rabbi didn't speak English. And the young man didn't speak much Hebrew. But he tried communicating to the rabbi, and he said, Rabbi, I didn't understand everything you said in the shiur, in the lecture, but I do understand that you need money. Rabbi Ponovich smiled at him and says, you're the only one in this entire place that understood the point of the lecture. Sometimes a person can listen, but never understand the point. Can do, but never understand the point. Every year we read Megillat Esther, but rarely does anybody understand the point of the Megillah. You ask somebody, what's the point of the Megillah? Oh, to recognize the miracles. What miracles? Oh, the miracle that Hashem saved us, the miracle that, Hashem saved us all the time. Well, the miracle that he killed Haman. Well, there's many new Hamans that were born. Well, the Megillah. Yeah, I know the Megillah. What's the point of the whole thing? Well, to know the story of Am Yisrael going to eat with the Chashverosh and that party, and it wasn't a good thing. Why? Why wasn't it a good thing? Why can't you just go to a restaurant and eat? Why can't you go to a Super Bowl party? Why can't you go and have Thanksgiving like the Goyim? Why? Why can't you do all this? No, because Hashem didn't say, said it, but he didn't say it, and you're confused. The whole point of PURIM is to glorify God's name and show everyone that the most important thing is to honor Hashem and to make Hashem's honor superior to everything else. So much so that the Gemara in Masechet Megillah said, if you did not sanctify Hashem's name today, it was better off you weren't born. The Mishnah in Masechet Avot says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created everything for the honor of His name, for His glory, not your glory, not your name. When a person understands their obligation to honor God's name, they live their life differently. But when a person understands their obligation to, or their need to glorify their own name, they'll never understand the point of Judaism, they'll never understand the point of the holidays, they'll never understand the point of Torah. So Rabbi Ponovich told this young man, you understand the lecture better than everybody else. Why? What am I coming here? I'm bored. I have nothing to do. I came here to convince you guys to donate into Torah. But I can't just come and say donate, so I'm giving you a shiur to educate you, so show you some of the fruits of what the Torah brings, things that you can benefit from, things that you can learn from, but even more so, things that you can become a partner with. So many times a person that's a taker, that only takes, they can have a shiur Torah every week, 5 times a week. They can have 500 questions being answered. but never understand that the whole point is for them to become a partner in all of this. Partner in contribution of money, partner in contribution of time, partner in contribution of everything of their life. So when a person looks at the Torah in a way where they're looking at it as a intellectual endeavor rather than a life, a Torah life, then unfortunately they're not going to be able to live the truth. They may recognize the truth, or at least parts of it, but they'll never be able to live the truth. Because living the truth requires a person to make sacrifices. Some sacrifices a person will understand, some sacrifices a person will not understand. So the first thing that a person needs to recognize is that Hashem, it's not just giving honor to Hashem with words or writing some messages on the internet of how much you love Hashem, but rather making Hashem your number one investment of time, of money, of feelings. You should love no one, fear no one, contribute to no one more than Hashem. Hashem has to be literally number one. Two, to know how to do all of this, a person must follow the lead of those that have done it, which are the Torah Scholars, throughout all of the generation up until today, all the way from Moshe Rabbeinu up until today. Three, Moshe Rabbeinu says the third pillar of the four pillars of truth is the Levites. Who are the Levites? The Torah Scholars. Not just your rabbi, but to be part of the Torah community, to invest into other people learning and not just yourself. Making sure that a person is doing everything they can to magnify, to increase the amount of Torah being learned in the world. But the four, after a person has achieved the first three, four is the most difficult. And that is honesty. Moshe Rabbeinu says, I showed you the words of God. Moshe Rabbeinu says, Hashem chose me to be the representative. Moshe Rabbeinu says, the Levites are the ones that stood up for the truth when the golden calf sin was made, and they're the ones that killed the evil. But Moshe Rabbeinu says that despite all of what happened, despite my position, I still have to show you that I'm not just knowledgeable of the truth, representing the truth, aware of the truth, but I'm living the truth. And that's why I'm doing the accounting and showing you how much money came in so you know where it's going. If only organizations would do that, where they literally, people would know where their money is going, I bet you that 9 out of 10 people, if not even more, would decide to donate elsewhere. Because when they did studies on this, most of the time people donate for a cause but never reach the cause. They donate to help some poor person in Africa or in South America or wherever it is, but in reality all it's doing is enriching somebody else in a different country. They donate food to people, they end up empowering terrorism. So Moshe Rabbeinu wants us to know that honesty is critical. And no one is above reproach. No one is not subject to this. Everyone has to know that honesty is critical. Now, why is honesty so difficult? Because in order to live honesty, that means that you have to apply it everywhere. Not just in your Torah learning, and not just in the mitzvahs that you've already accepted upon yourself, and you're comfortable with already at this point, but rather other things. Now, if a person flinches every single time he hears some of the sharp words of the sages, but not in a positive way, but rather their immediate reaction is that this can't be true, or they must mean something else. That means that there is a bigger impact of the Yetzer Hara on you than there is of the Yetzer Tov. Why? Because when you hear the truth, technically, it's not necessarily always going to be so convenient and so comforting, but your immediate reaction should be, this is the truth. Not, no, it can't be. Are you sure? Doubting it. If your immediate reaction is doubting it, doubting the words of the sages, then usually there's an issue. There's an issue that could be hurting you in many other places. So for example, when the sages say that we have to make blessings on eating, drinking, after we relieve ourselves, a person that is comfortable with that mitzvah would not have a problem fulfilling it. And if they forgot to make a blessing, they, it's not really a big deal. Not really a big deal according to them. In fact, if they hear some of the things that the sages say about blessings, they may think twice about how much of a good blesser they are. The Gemara says in Masechet Brachot that a person that enjoys anything in this world without blessing Hashem is a thief. They're enjoying something that Hashem gave them without saying thank you, without blessing Hashem. What does this mean, blessing Hashem? Well, Hashem needs you to bless Him? Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef in Yalkut Yosef clarifies this point for all of the heretics that unfortunately are upon us in the name of the sages, and tells us that blessing Hashem is not chas v'shalom benefiting Hashem, but rather he brings Rabbeinu Bechaye commentary on Sefer Dvarim, where he says that although Hashem is the source of all blessings, He desires that the people that He created will bless Him so that He can increase the reward in the world to come and bless them in the world with great bounty. Meaning that He desires you blessing Him, not for His benefit, but rather for yours. He wants to have another reason to give you more good. It's just like a parent desires to have their kids do the homework, have their kids eat healthy food, have their kids sleep good. Not because the parent benefits out of the kids sleeping good or eating good or doing good in school. You don't benefit out of it. But you want it because you know it's good for your kids. And you want your kids to have good. Same concept here. But even more so, Rabbeinu Bechaye explains, the mitzvah of reciting blessings is to people's benefits, not to God's benefit. Where God is the source of all blessings, and He has no need for us to bless Him. It's not even possible for Him to gain, even if we would bless Him constantly day and night. We are the ones who gain through reciting these blessings. Where when we recite the blessings before eating a snack, food, or anything like that, what we're doing is we're testifying that God watches over us and that He is the one who supplied us all of our needs. And thereby, because of that recognition, God now follows His rules, says, oh, they bless me, they recognize I'm the source of all good, now I'm going to give more good. Now I'm going to give more good. Not because He needs to give more good, but rather He wants to give more good, but it has to be recognized. It has to be recognized, just like if you spoil your kids for no purpose, you're just ruining the kids. So Hashem has rules, not for His benefit, but for the benefit of the children. For the benefit of the children. Now, this most people understand. What most people will not understand initially is what the same Gemara says. A person that doesn't bless Hashem before he eats, before he drinks, before he benefits from anything, doesn't bless Hashem, he's not just a thief. He's like Yerovam ben Nevat, Rasha Merusha, Machtia Rabin. Yerovam ben Nevat? What, just because I don't say blessings? I'm like Yerovam ben Nevat? Yerovam ben Nevat, you know who Yerovam is? He took Am Yisrael, told him, don't go to the Bet Mikdash. Go pray to the golden calf. Remember the golden calf in Mount Sinai? I have two of them. He made two golden calves. So what? You didn't bless Hashem, you're like him. She didn't bless Hashem before she ate some peach, some orange. She's like Yerovam. How? Nah, this must be an exaggeration. If your initial reaction is this must be an exaggeration and this can't be true, that means falsehood is the dominant force currently in your life. Now, if the sages say it, it must be true. If we don't know why it's true, it's our lacking. So what's the explanation? Explanation is as follows. The Chachamim teach us in the name of Rabbi Shlomo Zalman Auerbach in Sefer Alichot Shlomo. In the footnote, page 271, he explains the pshat of this Gemara. He says, what was the Mishkan for? What was the Bet Mikdash for? To get closer to Hashem. But you can't just live in the Bet Mikdash. At some point you have to go home. In fact, some of you are not going to live in Yerushalayim. You're going to live in Tveria. You're going to live in Netanya. You're going to live in Tzfat. You're going to live in all types of places. But that's why the Torah says 3 times a year we had to go up to the Bet Mikdash. Shlosha regalim. Sukkot, Shavuot, and Pesach. That's where we had to go. Why do we have to go? To give donations? We can send donations. To what? To pray? We can pray home. Why go? The ultimate purpose was to get closer to Hashem. To get closer to Hashem. That was the purpose of going to the Bet Mikdash. Yerovam ben Nevat derasha merusha. What did he do? He didn't want people to go to the Bet Mikdash. So what did he do? He said, go pray to golden calves. 2 of them. He blocked their way. He got Am Yisrael to not get closer to Hashem. And therefore, he was the worst of the worst. How does that apply to blessings? What's the blessing for? When you bless Hashem, before you eat a peach, before you eat an orange, before you drink something, after you relieve yourself. All of these different blessings, what is it for? It's one of the 7 mitzvot of the rabbis, of the sages. There are 7 mitzvot, there's 613 mitzvot from the Torah, and there's 7 from the sages. You have blessings, you have the Halel, you say on Rosh Chodesh and on holidays, you have the Eruv, you have Chanukah, Purim, what do you have also? We have 5. Let's see, we have 5. Netilat Yadayim, and also the candles of Shabbat. So 7 blessings, 7 mitzvot of the rabbis, 613 from the Torah. One of them is blessings. What is the purpose of the blessings? What is the purpose of the blessing? To get closer to Hashem. To get closer to Hashem. That's the purpose. It's not because Hashem needs your blessing. If you think that Hashem needs your blessing, you're a heretic, can't count you in minyan. Can't use you for any Jewish ceremony. Hashem doesn't need you. You need Hashem. So why bless Him? To recognize Hashem's greatness. To recognize and be grateful. To get closer to Hashem. The purpose of every single blessing is to get closer to Hashem, no different than going to the Bet Mikdash. In so many words, you going to the Bet Mikdash and you making a blessing on an orange has exactly the same purpose. Therefore, the reason why the Gemara says When you do not make blessings, you're considered like Yerovam ben Nevat. It's because Yerovam ben Nevat's purpose, mission, and unfortunately success was getting Am Yisrael not to achieve the closest to Hashem and getting Am Yisrael away from Hashem. When you don't make blessings, you also succeed in distancing yourself from Hashem, not recognizing your creator, not being grateful, and unfortunately not achieving that closeness that you're supposed to. So we see here one small, tiny example of something where if a person doesn't accept the truth just on face value, it's easy to say this is an exaggeration. This cannot be true. But that's the point. If a person wants to live the truth, it's not just knowing where the truth is. The truth is in the Torah. Knowing where God, that God is the creator. That's not enough. You can know the truth but live a lie. You can know the truth but live a lie. It's also about accepting the truth. And accepting the truth sometimes has to be even before you understand why it is what it is. So we have, Rabotai, many different places in our day-to-day life where a person can test themselves and see where their red line is. Where their red line is. We saw that Am Yisrael at the time of PURIM, even though they had Mordechai, Tzaddik, Kadosh, they had prophets, but unfortunately, they also had some bad people mislead them, where told them that it was okay to go to a party where this Persian monster is celebrating that the Bet Mikdash was not built, and somehow justifying that the Jewish people also have to attend this party. And they went. Over 18,000 Jews went to this party. And this party wasn't one night. It was for 6 months. 6 months party. So their line of truth, they knew obviously Hashem. They knew, they heard the everything. They have prophets. They have miracles. But their line was, yeah, but we're scared of this king. We're scared of what people are going to think about us. We're scared of being excluded. We're scared of everything but Hashem. Knowing Hashem, but not being scared. A person can test themselves also and see perhaps they're not so different from the generation of PURIM, where if they were part of that generation, they would get the same decree that Haman would get the right to kill them. A person can say, listen, I believe in Hashem, but I'm still going to go to the office party. I'm still going to go to the forbidden party. I'm still going to go to a party where I know I'm not allowed to go to because there's mixed dancing, there's immorality, there's non-kosher behavior, non-kosher food. I'm still going to go because I'm afraid of what people are going to think. I'm afraid of being fired. I'm afraid that people are going to think that I'm strange. I'm afraid of how people are going to feel. So that's where your line is. That's where your line is. Some people line, their line is in business. They could be very good at going to shul, praying, but a thief in business. A thief in business. They could be in the cash advance business and literally steal for a living. But they'll justify it because some rabbi that doesn't know his right or left of what the actual halacha is, told them it's allowed, it's allowed. Why? Because they found some verse in the Torah, it says it's allowed to lend to Gentiles, so it's allowed for you to lend. Never investigating what the business actually does, never investigating what the real halacha is. Allowed. Why? Because he also has a line. What's his line? As long as you're donating to me, it's allowed. If you're donating to somewhere else, not allowed. So sometimes people's line of where their truth, knowledge, separates from their living is when it comes to money. When it comes to money. But sometimes a person just doesn't want to believe the truth. They just don't. Why? Because either it'll cost them money, or because they don't want to be wrong. For example, we've said several times over the years, in the name of Chachamim, not something we created, don't buy tefillin and mezuzot from just anybody. Why? Because there are certain things when it comes to tefillin and mezuzot that you don't know about, to the extent where no one will be able to tell you that this tefillin or this mezuzah is not kosher. Even if you check it every day, every year, every month, it doesn't make a difference. Why? People think when we say get tefillin only from kosher people that know who the scribe is, they think, oh yeah, that's probably because he has better writing, or maybe because it's better material. No, you're not understanding. One of the things that people don't understand is that there are certain laws when it comes to tefillin that their application is not something that you can see. You can't test for it. For example, if you have certain letters and they connect together, obviously that makes the tefillin or the mezuzah pasul, that it's not valid. That you can test for, that you can check for. But if the person writing the tefillin is a kosher person or not, that you can't test for, unless you test the person. Which means that if you bought the tefillin from some online store that you don't even know who was behind it, you bought it on eBay, you bought it from some guy that stole it from somebody, you bought it on Amazon, you bought it from an unknown seller that you don't actually know who wrote the tefillin. You don't know if that person's even Jewish, and you don't even know, even if they are Jewish, you don't know if they're a kosher person. And even if they are a Shomer Shabbat person, it doesn't mean that they're a kosher person to write tefillin. One of the stories Rabbi Ovadia had told, that the Yalkut Yosef brings as well, in Ilchot Tefillin, is that Rabbi Ovadia was told that there's one guy that became very popular in the world of tefillin in Eretz Yisrael. People like his writing, his things. And many people bought tefillin from him. One day, this guy came and saw the rabbi, and the rabbi took the opportunity to ask him some questions. And he says to him, oh, you write tefillin? Yeah, rabbi, people like it. You know, we're doing good things to help Am Yisrael. He said, tell me, how do you write tefillin? He said, Rabbi, it comes to me naturally. I just write them. You know, I love it. No, I understand. But how do you write? Oh, you know, I take the ink and I write. No. Tell me, walk me through. Let's just say I'm going to give you a parchment. What do? Start. So the guy says, take the parchment, I start writing. That's how I start my day. I start writing. That's it. Yeah, no, I just start and, I try to dedicate as much time as possible till I'm finished. Oh, okay. All of your tefillin are not kosher. What? How? How would you know? Why? The letters are not connecting. It has nothing to do with the letters. There's a law, an halacha, that you have to make a statement before you start writing tefillin, which you apparently don't. And that means all of your tefillin are not kosher. And this is not something you can't check for. Why? No one that's looking at your tefillin would ever know if this guy ever made the statement or not. So the writing could be perfect. The ink could be pristine. The material that they made the tefillin from, absolutely mehudah. But the tefillin are not kosher. Why? This guy doesn't know the laws. Another example. There's a law where the letters have to be created from writing. Now the average person would say, of course from writing. Where is it going to be from? No, you're not understanding. You as a regular person, perhaps that hasn't learned the laws of tefillin yet, are not going to know what I'm talking about. And that's why there's a point. When the person is writing tefillin or a mezuzah, sometimes the person, the ink runs, or he pushed a little bit too much, and let's say the hey that is made out of, let's say, two letters, a tzaresh and a yud, it connects, the ink connects between the top and the bottom, and it becomes a new letter, it becomes a chet instead of a hey. So, what you can do, if you want a hey, not for tefillin, just to make a hey, is you can scratch off the extra ink from the parchment, and now you have an A. So you have an A, but you also have a letter that was not made from writing. Rather, the letter was made from erasing, and therefore the tefillin are not kosher. Which means, if the scribe does not have yirat shamayim, forget about knowledge, even if he has the knowledge, but he does not have fear of heaven, that when he makes the mistake to simply discard all of his work and put it in the geniza, instead of erasing it and no one's going to know, you, my friend, can be wearing tefillin that's not kosher for 20 years and not even know it. The point is, Rabotai, living honesty is not the same as knowing honesty. Knowing honesty is that you know you need kosher tefillin. You know you need kosher mezuzah. You know you need to donate for Torah. You know you need to be honest in business. You know you need to be loyal to your spouse. You know you need to believe in one God. You know you need all of these things. But that knowledge will not make you honest. That knowledge will make you knowledgeable. What makes you honest? Living according to all of those standards. Living according to all of those rules. And applying those rules through thick and thin, regardless of how you feel about it, how you understand it, and in fact, how it even affects you, even if it causes you to lose. This was the difference between Mordechai and the rest of the generation. Mordechai represented the Torah. The people that went to the party represented themselves. When a person, even if they recognize that Hashem is the king, he is not the king that's ruling them. Rather, the king that's ruling them is their evil inclination, which is Satan. He is the king that's ruling them. A person listens to their own inclinations, their own ideas, and does what stupid people do, like this one woman who has started a movement to tell women to tell their husbands that they're not going to be together with them on mikveh night until they pretty much turn the world upside down to convince some guy to give his wife a get. So they're going to possibly get divorced themselves, or at the very least lead their husband to make a wasting seed, some type of sin of karet, fighting, all types of problems. Why? Because you want to help somebody get divorced. So you're going to create other divorces. You're going to create chilul Hashem. You're going to desecrate the name of Hashem. You're going to stop a mitzvah of purbu. You're going to stop a mitzvah of ona'ah. You're going to what? Because it makes sense to you. It makes sense to her that in order to help one person, we have to threaten every family. We have to threaten every Jewish home. This is a person that if they don't do tshuva, and if her followers don't do tshuva, the gehenom that they're going to get literally will not have an end. Why? Because you're taking Hashem's most prized possession, which is Kedusha. Kedusha is intimacy. For anyone that watched our series based on the Ramban of Jewish intimacy, Kedusha is the ultimate connection to Hashem. It's the ultimate appreciation for why we are what we are. If a person understands what Kedusha is, to take Kedusha and throw it in the garbage because your mind told you that this is what you need to do, there's literally no worse thought that you could have ever had in your lifetime than the one you had. You're no different than Yerovam ben Nevat currently. Yerovam ben Nevat had an opportunity to do tshuva. He didn't. You have an opportunity to do tshuva too. Will you? Will you stop concluding what people need to do based on your opinion and start looking at what Torah says? Or are you going to conclude that you decide what Torah is going to say? This is what people do every day, unfortunately. You can know the truth, but not live it. You can know the truth, but live a lie. Why? Because the truth is not just based on knowledge, Rabotai. Moshe Rabbeinu tells us, believing in God is easy. Understanding that God gave the Torah to Moshe Rabbeinu and the sages are great, easy. Recognizing that the world of Torah scholars needs to continue, easy. Living in accordance to the laws with complete honesty, that's where things get more difficult. Why? Because honesty shouldn't have a red line. It's either true or it's false. 99% truth equals 100% falsehood. Which means that every single one of us needs to make those decisions each and every single day. And not just decide where the truth fits our agenda and where the truth doesn't fit. Because if we're living that way, literally, there's no end to the amount of lies that we'll have to pay for. BeEzrat HaShem, this too will help us live the truth, publicize the truth, and never make up what the truth is. Rather, learn what it is and live according to it. Now, you guys can ask some questions, and BeEzrat HaShem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give us the answers. What's the Rav's thoughts on the constant topic of a gunat and get withholders that has been going around lately? It seems both sides have a solid point, and it can get confusing to know what's the right thing. Apparently, this is what I just talked about. As far as having a people that want to get divorced, the people that are familiar with the world of Torah are not all bent out of shape over this as much as the public that is not familiar with the world of Torah is. The reason why is because the public is looking at the world of Jewish divorce from a secular perspective, from a non-Jewish perspective, meaning if she wants to leave, therefore he should let her go. That's not how Jewish marriage works according to the Torah. Just because she wants to leave doesn't mean he should let her go. Now, again, doesn't mean that a person should torture his wife, but just because a woman decides to pick up and leave and go find herself a new boyfriend does not mean that a husband should give her a get. So when the average person in society looks at it from a secular, non-Jewish perspective, of course they're going to pick the women's perspective, where they're going to say, listen, she doesn't want to live with him, he should let her go, that's it. Yes, if the non-Jewish law is what you're living according to, you're right. What's the debate about? Go to divorce court, in the Goyim court, and that's it. Decide over there. But if you're living according to Jewish law, it doesn't work that way. It simply does not work that way. So a person that's not familiar with the halacha, is not familiar with the circumstances, cannot put their 2 senses into it. Now, of course, there are some bad people out there that torture the wife, don't want to be with the wife, and still not let her go just to punish her. Sure, there are some people like that. But I could assure you, that's not the majority of the cases. It's not the majority of the cases. Most people, generally speaking, are decent people. Even if they're upset at somebody, they have kids with them and so on, they're not looking to necessarily cause that person so much agony and pain. Usually there is a reason behind everything. There's a reason why they don't want to give the get. There's a reason why, there's this whole thing happened in the first place. And when ignorant people like that moron that calls herself something girl, whatever, she's the one that's promoting women not to be with their husbands in order to help other women get a get. This is literally the most moronic thing in the world. You're going to create more divorces in order to help one person get their get. It's stupid, both spiritually and otherwise. But nonetheless, if nobody's going to speak about it, we'll throw our hat into it and make sure that people know whoever listens to her will go to the same chamber in Gehenom with her. Same chamber in Gehenom. Now, does that mean that every husband that doesn't want to give a get is right? Absolutely not. Some of them are right, some of them are wrong. How can you possibly understand who's right, who's wrong? You have to not only know the situation between the couple of what happened, but you also have to know the law. You have to know the law. You have to know the Torah law. You can't just decide to do what you want, how you want, because you live in America, because you live in Australia, because you live in Israel. You have to live according to the Torah. Now, you don't want to live according to the Torah. What do you care about a get? Don't get a get. Go marry some cow, have a few sheep as kids, and who cares what you do? But if you want to live according to the Torah all the way. That means if you don't get a get, you never get married. That means that if you get a get, you get married. That means that you live according to the Torah through thick and thin. But to go and make a big stink about it, and this whole Chilul Hashem that's going on over there, and people making new rules, and protests, and giving certain people a bad name, sometimes it's warranted, sometimes it's not. And I can tell you this, even if you have 100 protests, let's say the same 100 morons protest. Why do I call morons? Because people that protest are morons. Generally speaking, they're morons. Why? You don't get to anything beneficial through protests. You don't. There are better ways to do things. Protests are just commotion, annoying, and nothing conducive happens. Either way, you have a right to protest because you're Americans. So, 100 people protest against 100 bad husbands. Okay? 100 people don't want to give a get. Let's just give it. And they're going to go outside his house and say, you, let her go, give her the get. No, we won't go. No, we won't go. We're stupid. And we're going to be here all night because we want nothing to do with. Right? We're going to do that. Let's say they're right on 99 people. 99 people. They're bad people. You have permission to make fun of them, to do this, to do. Let's just say, if they're wrong on one guy they did this to, and they're wrong, all of them lose Olam Haba. All of them lose Haba. Hence the reason why I call them morons. The downside of doing these things in such a way, in such a barbaric way, such a non-Torah way, is literally just something that people do not understand the ramifications of, just in case they're wrong. Now again, I have some people sending me emails about, oh, help me with this get, help me with that get. I don't get involved in that world. Well, unless I know you and I know her and I know what's going on, I'm generally not involved in that stuff. And even when I do know, I try not to get involved if I can avoid it. If I can avoid it, I don't get involved. Sometimes I have to get involved. And when I get involved, I tell the people what they have to do. If that means give her a get, that means give her a get. If that means give her a get, but later on, because there are certain things that have to happen first, then that's what I tell them. Tell them whatever is going to be the best thing for everybody. Sometimes people think, oh, but no, listen, we're going to get divorced anyway, so why don't you just give the get now? No, it doesn't work that way. Why? Because you have a track record of being an evil person, and if you get the get, you could hurt them in a civil court, and you could do certain things. So don't just think that just because they both agreed not to live together anymore, that means that the get comes first. It doesn't work that way. When you don't know the halacha, when you don't know the people, when you don't know ramifications, you could just decide like secular people decide. But what happens is when morons lead people, in essence mislead people, and they have some puppet rabbis that go on videos with them because they want more likes. They want to be feminists. What ends up happening is that people can go to these protests, people can follow these instructions and do these things, desecrate the Torah, desecrate the name of Hashem, and literally think that they're doing the right thing. And as I said, even if they were right 99 out of 100 times, which is a statistical impossibility, even if they were right 99 out of 100 times, they still lost Olam Haba. Why? One time you're wrong on all of that. One time you're wrong on all of that, that's it, you're finished. All of those people have no Olam Haba. Now, when a person doesn't believe what I just said, that means either they don't know Torah or they don't believe the Torah. Why? Because that's what the Torah says. That's what the Torah says, to go and make rules that make sense to you. That's a form of megale panim b'Torah, making new rules. So, most important conclusion is, if you know all of the laws in regards to Gittin, which means that you are a Dayan at this point, or at the very least a serious Torah scholar, and you know the situation with all of the ugly details, then you can make a statement of what you think about this particular issue. Not publicize it, but to help the couple that doesn't want to be a couple. You don't know the rules, or you don't know the couple and all the details, you only know one version of the story, or you heard what you heard, where you heard, your source of information is the media or who's who. Stay out of it. Why? You're risking Olam Haba. You're risking living what happened in the Gehinnom movie that we made, living that for 1,000 years or more. You're risking. So it's better to say in places where the ramifications are much, much higher than the reward. Could you explain the difference between redemption and salvation? Also, I already explained, this was last week's question. I said, there's redemption and salvation. We talked about it last week. There's someone that went to the Mizgad, which is of the Muslims, and ripped the Quran. Okay, am I part of that group? No, I'm not part of that group. I'm not necessarily a fan of the Quran, but I wouldn't rip the Quran, not in public or in private. I could rip on it, meaning I could tell you that it's a mistake, it's completely full of nonsense, it's full of lies, it's a horrible belief system that leads to terrorism and aggression, as I've quoted places in the Quran that specifically tell people that they should be terrorists and liars and horrible people. But to go rip it won't do me any good. It's just simply going to waste time and not necessarily going to be anything that is going to help anybody on either side. All right. Okay, let's see. Okay, we have here. Have you guys ever read the Quran? Allah said the Quran is giving you guys an upper hand if you use it right. I've read enough of the Quran to know that it's full of falsehood, and anything that's true in it, they stole from the Torah. Rabbi, when are you taking questions? Now, Rabbi, if I live to see the coming of Mashiach, will I have to endure Gehenom and Kafakela? That depends. If just because somebody has the merit to see Mashiach doesn't necessarily mean that they are perfect. But again, the details are extensive, meaning that even if a person has the merit to see Mashiach, the Chachamim say that they would still have to endure death, the pain of death. Everybody has to die at least once. So that's a certain amount of pain. Now, as far as whether a person has to go to Gehenom for a certain amount of time or not, depends on their actions. Depends if they've done tshuva for everything that they've done. Now, they may have the merit to see Mashiach, but they still have some mistakes that they didn't fix yet. So for that, they'll have to clean the neshama, and since they ran out of time, since the Mashiach arrived, they'll have to clean the neshama in Gehenom. Furthermore, there's also different a path to Gan Eden. When a neshama goes from chamber to chamber in Gan Eden, or even when a neshama goes to Gan Eden, it has to go through Nahal Dinu, which is fire. Furthermore, when a neshama is elevated from one level of Gan Eden to another level of Gan Eden, meaning it got better, it also has to be cleaned up because the judgment is more particular. Things that were allowed in the first chamber are forbidden in the second chamber, which means that a person has to clean that. Sometimes cleaning that is fire. Sometimes cleaning that is a reincarnation. That's why sometimes TZADIKIM will reincarnate as a fish. Or other things just for the sake of doing a specific tikkun. That's why sometimes, for example, there's a person will have a chas v'shalom lo aleinu lo alechem, but a person can have a baby that dies shortly after they're born. That baby that died shortly after they were born is a neshama of a tzaddik, of a righteous person many times, not all the time, but many times they are. They're a neshama of a tzaddik that had to do a tikkun of living in this world for a short period of time, an extra 5 minutes, an extra hour, an extra 5 months, whatever it is, in order for that neshama to go to the next level. So it's to just say, if I'm righteous, I'm never going to see Gehenom is not necessarily true. At the same token, to say that you're going to be there for years and years is also not true. So again, the judgment is very, very precise, to say the least, and general statements don't do anybody any good. We can't give every detail about every single thing, but to make general statements like just saying, no, you'll be fine if you're righteous, you're fine, and you're never going to see Gehenna, it's just simply not true. And this is also one of the examples that I'm trying to tell you guys today, is that if something is true, you have to stick with it. You can't alter the truth just for the sake of appeasing people. So the subject of reward and punishment is a huge subject, and the vast majority of people don't have even an inclination of what it is. Many people don't even believe in judgment. They think that it's just a place of everybody goes to heaven, and there's literally nothing further from the truth. The vast majority of people do not go to heaven, ever. Why? They're wicked. Simple. They're wicked. That's what the Gemara says. Gemara says heaven is 60 times the size of earth, but Gehenom is no size, meaning it's not only much, much bigger than heaven, but it continues to grow. Why? Because there's simply many more wicked people. There's many more wicked people. Now, does that mean that you're going to go to Gehenom? Not necessarily. It depends on your actions. What everybody else did shouldn't necessarily mean that you're going to do the same thing. But it's ignorant and naive to to believe that everyone's going to go to heaven, or that if you're overall a decent person, that's it. You're going to be in the same place as Moshe Rabbeinu. You have to understand that there is a judge, and that judge has a system, and that system is more precise than you could ever possibly imagine. And the more you learn about it, the more you realize why David HaMelech, Moshe Rabbeinu, Avraham Avinu, all of the great sages that ever lived were terrified of the judgment. Meaning, the most righteous, holy, and Torah observant and dedicated people that ever lived were terrified of the judgment. So we are practically homeless in mitzvot and in good deeds in comparison to these great tzadikim. At the very least, we should be scared. At the very least, we should try more and more to be better. That's it. And not live in a deluded mentality that as long as you don't murder people, you're okay. Because it just doesn't work that way. Rabbi, can you talk to us more about the 1,000 years after Mashiach? I've already said everything I could say about it. I mean, the 1,000 years after Mashiach is going to be 1,000 years in this world. The world will still operate according to the nature that we have now, meaning that you're still going to have, gravity and, the rules of the world. There is a debate of whether people will continue to give birth or not. There is a lot of debates of the details of what's going to happen during that 1,000 years, and hence the reason why the Rambam says we're only going to know for sure what's going to happen after it happens. We're only going to know what's going to happen after Mashiach comes, after it happens. There's a debate of when the resurrection of the dead is going to be. Some say it's going to be 40 years after Mashiach arrives. Some say different times. There's things that the sages have stated about every part of it, but again, none of it is set in stone. There is different traditions and different possibilities also based on our actions. It's not that he's right and he's wrong, but rather because there are multiple possibilities available based on how we get there. Based on how we get there and how HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to glorify his name. So there's no limitations, and there's no this has to happen this way. It's not that way. Hashem can do whatever he wants, and obviously we know and are aware of some of the possibilities, but not everything. How many Jews made it to the promised land? If you're talking about the time of Moshe Rabbeinu, you had the entire people that came out of Egypt. Out of all the people that were in Egypt, only 20% left Egypt. The other 80% Hashem killed them in Egypt. And 20% is the best case scenario. Could be even less. Out of the 20% that left Egypt, only a very, very few actually came to the land of Israel. The vast majority, meaning 99% of them, died in the desert as a punishment for their not having full belief in Hashem and the 10 tests that they tested Hashem with. One of them being that the Meraglim. So Hashem made them die in the desert, and only their children and grandchildren were the ones that actually entered the land of Israel, with the exception of the last generation, meaning every year another group of those people that sinned with the spies died, until the last year of the 40 years, that generation did not die. So there is also the leaders, Caleb ben Yefuneh, Yeshua ben Nun, Pinchas, and a few others that also entered the land of Israel, even though they were alive at the time of the Meraglim. So the vast majority that left Egypt did not go enter the land of Israel, but some did. The majority that entered the land of Israel were their children and their grandchildren and so on. As far as the actual number, it was millions of people. It wasn't, 5 people. It was millions of people. Who makes your films? They're very powerful. We have a team, Baruch Hashem. We have a fantastic team of people that work very hard, and we invest a lot of time and money to make everything Baruch Hashem. How would you mind talking about how would we recognize when Mashiach comes? You don't need to recognize. It's simply going to be known by everybody in the world, both the enemies and the friends. I know that the Mashiach is going to come. It's going to be the culmination of the climax of this world, just like Mount Sinai was known by everyone around the world. Hashem made sure that everyone knew that Hashem is giving the Jewish people the Torah. Everyone knew that Hashem split the Sea of Reeds. Everyone knew that Hashem took the Jewish people out of Egypt. Hashem made sure that everybody knew and saw certain things, felt certain things, and it was common knowledge. And one of the ways that we know that the whole world knew is when the spies went to Israel the second time, when they spoke to Rachav. They spoke to Rachav. Rachav told them, she was a non-Jew at the time, she told them that we heard about the great miracles that God did for you and that He gave you the Torah, and I believe in them. So Rachav heard everything that happened in the desert, even though there was no internet, there was no news stations. Everyone in the world knew what happened. So if Hashem made sure that everyone back then knew that He is obviously the God of Israel, He's the creator of the world, He gave us the Torah, then needless to say, the next climatic point in creation, which is the arrival of Mashiach, He's going to make sure that everyone knows that this is Mashiach, and there's no doubts. Anytime we had false Mashiachs, there were always doubts, there were always people that went against and some people that went for. No one ever said where conclusively everyone agreed this is Mashiach. On anyone. Not on Yoshke, and not on Shabtai Tzvi, and not on any of the hundreds of other false messiahs that happened throughout history. There's been hundreds of false messiahs. Most of them weren't as successful in causing damage like Yeshu was and Shabtai Tzvi, or Yaakov Frank, but needless to say, there were some that were successful, but not anywhere near the same level. But the point being is, there was always people that did not believe. The real Mashiach arrives, everyone will know. Both the enemies of the Mashiach that will fight against him, to try to overcome him, to try to destroy him, to try to rule the world, and the TZADIKIM, the righteous people that have been waiting for him. Everyone will know. One of the things that will also happen is that Eliyahu Navi is going to announce that he's coming 3 days before he comes. Some Chachamim say that he could even announce it on the same day. It doesn't necessarily have to be 3 days like the prophet, one of the prophets, he says, it'll come 3 days before, but it doesn't have to be 3 days. It could be the same day. That's what the Maharsha says. But needless to say, there is an announcement of him coming, a prophet. There's also going to be a sanctification process of the Mashiach, where the Eliyahu Navi is going to have to take the special oil of Moshe Rabbeinu and put it on the Mashiach in order to empower him, just like they did with the Kohanim and the kings. So it's going to be a whole process. And like I said, once he becomes Mashiach, there will not be any doubts. He's not going to announce himself as the Mashiach. He's not going to feel like he's the Mashiach. He's not going to make a YouTube channel to say that he's Mashiach. So in so many words, all of these people that you see, or you hear, or you know, or even if it's you yourself, that you feel like you're Mashiach, that in itself, you're not Mashiach. That in itself shows you're not Mashiach. Why? Because you're not following the certain requirements to be Mashiach. One of the requirements is extraordinary righteousness, Torah scholarship, a dedication to God. It's certainly not a feeling. Your feeling that you're Mashiach is a combination of arrogance with craziness, a little bit of delusion. Perhaps you have some gas. Maybe you took some drugs that are having an aftershock, and a few other things. You're definitely not Mashiach. People that have all types of write-ups or YouTube channels and videos talking about how they're Mashiach, I can assure you, they're not Mashiach. Mashiach will not announce himself. Mashiach will not announce himself. Secondly, Mashiach will not be doubted. No one will doubt that somebody's the Mashiach. So if people are saying, is so-and-so the Mashiach? If there's even a question whether he is or he isn't Mashiach, that by itself, by default, means he's not Mashiach. By default, if they're asking whether he is or he isn't Mashiach, whoever that he or is, or sometimes she, because people are crazy because they somehow think that there's a woman who can be Mashiach, if there's a question, that means they're not. That means they're not. Now, it means they're not. Now, could they possibly be? If they have all the qualifications, it could possibly be in the future. A person that's alive today, and Hashem decides to make the Mashiach next week, by all means. But if people are asking whether he is or he is today, that means he's not. Why? Because when Mashiach arrives, there will not be a question. Not from the enemies and not from the friends. So there's certain things. And again, like I said, people that think that their rabbi is Mashiach, or that they are Mashiach themselves, or their kids are Mashiach. There's one woman who told me that she thinks her son is Mashiach. Another woman told me she thinks her daughter is Mashiach. Another non-Jew told me that he's Mashiach. And there's at least, maybe dozens of non-Jews that think that they're Mashiach. So there's all types of crazy people out there. Certainly there's some people that believe. The Lubavitcher Rebbe, Alav Shalom, who passed on already over 30 years ago, think he's Mashiach. Some even people think he's become one with God, which obviously makes them idol worshippers. There's, of course, billions of people that call Yeshua a Mashiach, but in reality, their definition of Mashiach is actually another word for God. So they're all idol worshippers. So there's a lot of crazies out there. The point is a person needs to know God has rules for himself that he gave us in the Torah. One of the things that he promised us is that no other people, not big or small, will ever claim that God spoke to them. No other people. Now, this is something that, if God wasn't running the world, can easily be changed tomorrow. There could be a group of 10 people say, come back on the news, God spoke to all of us together. We're not talking about millions of people. 10 people. 10 people say, God spoke to all of us together. God said, this will never happen. The only people that ever said that God spoke to all of us is Am Yisrael. Why? Because God spoke to them. And God said that this will never happen again. The events that took place at Mount Sinai, God said will never happen to anybody else. Mashiach is that next climatic point in creation. Just like there was creation itself, destruction of creation, at the time of Noah, there is obviously downward spiral all the way to Egypt, upward to Mount Sinai, culmination of the world at Matan Torah, receiving the Torah. Obviously, we had a couple of stop points of great times and bad times during the Bet Mikdash, and then eventually the ultimate culmination of the world is, or the next one is the arrival of Mashiach. And every one of these points that I mentioned to you, everyone knew. Everyone knew, everyone agreed, there was no different opinions, there was no Muslims saying, no, there was no Mount Sinai, there was no Christian saying there's no Mount Sinai, there was no Buddhist saying no Mount Sinai, nobody said that. Everyone agreed, there was Am Yisrael, there's Mount Sinai, God spoke to all of them, everybody heard, everybody saw, everybody was there. There was no question. Mashiach is the next point, which means Hashem will make sure that there is no question. How do I know? Because the prophet says it. Prophet Jeremiah, Prophet Yechezkel, all of the prophets talk about it, different times of end of times. One of the things Jeremiah says is that everything that happened in Egypt will be magnified for the time of Mashiach, meaning everything that happened back then will be even more before Mashiach comes and when Mashiach comes. So it's important for a person to know that all of these speculations, feelings, rumors, all of that, by default, is against the rules. By default, shows us that the truth is, whoever you think is Mashiach is not. Why? Because when he arrives, everyone will know, without a doubt, including from the enemy. Meaning that even Amalek knew that we received the Torah. Even Amalek knew that Hashem gave us the Torah. Even Amalek knew that we are the chosen people. They still wanted to go to war with us. They still went to war with us. And they're still going to be at war with us at the time of Mashiach. Even though they know. Meaning just because somebody knows the truth doesn't mean they live it. It's the subject of our entire lecture tonight. So, the enemy and the righteous people are going to know of the truth, of the arrival of the Mashiach, who he is, and there's not going to be any doubts. So you do not need to waste any energy looking for Mashiach. All you got to do is spend all of your energy preparing for Mashiach, which means do tshuva and help other people do tshuva. Once he arrives, you will not have any questions. I promise you, in the name of the Torah. How do you know what God is trying to say? Because he says it. If you read the Torah, then you understand. We have a written Torah, we have an oral Torah. A person that doesn't understand how we learn Torah should watch some of the other lectures where we talk about the Torah, how to learn it, how to understand it, the sages, written Torah, oral Torah. There's a lot of things that you're missing in order for you to understand the answer. I really wish I didn't sin. I'm so sad and scared I can't handle it. Everybody sins. There's no such thing as a person who doesn't sin. Everybody sins. But the key is to do tshuva, to repent, to say I'm sorry, to not do it again, to help other people also do that, repent, and do tshuva. And that's it. You'll be fine. Any recommendations for rabbis lecturing online like yourself, but in German? BeEzrat HaShem, we have a German channel, but currently it's with German subtitles. We are, BeEzrat HaShem, going to have the lectures in German dubbing, meaning that you'll hear my voice speaking German. So we don't have to speculate of who is good and who is not. Simply, if you have learned with us in English and understand that everything we say is from the Torah, then you'll be able to also do the same thing in German, as well as in Spanish, and BeEzrat HaShem, other languages as well. That's coming very soon. We're investing a fortune into it to BeEzrat HaShem bring it soon. Rabbi, in the Gemara, in the tractate Gerim Bet Hillel, tells that if a man are circumcised, he is a proselyte even if he didn't pass through immersion. But that's not what the halacha is. The halacha is that there's three different things that have to take place. He has to accept upon himself the mitzvot in front of the bedin. He has to have a circumcision. He has to dip in the mikveh. This is why the Gemara says that all converts will have to bring a sacrifice at the time of Mashiach, because that was one of the things that Am Yisrael did at Mount Sinai, which is not possible to do right now. The only thing that's possible to do right now is those three things, which is accepting the mitzvot in front of a bedin. That's obviously a kosher bedin, to immerse in the mikveh, and for men to be circumcised. Anyone that says otherwise is simply mistaken. I'm very well versed in it. Ken, there's no tractate of Purim, but I didn't want to bother explain to him that there's no tractate of Purim. But the answer was, does Rav Elchanan Wasserman have Sfarim? Yes, of course. There's several that he has. There's when we actually did a whole series on Ikrita the Meshicha, we have a whole series of one of his Sfarim. Ikrita the Meshicha. There's also Kovetz Ma'amarim. There's a few, yeah, sure. He was an extraordinary Talmidie Chachamim. What does the rabbi have to say about Palestine and Israel? What does rabbi? Okay, I say free Palestine from themselves, from Hamas, from their belief system, from terrorism, and make them decent human beings that could follow the Torah and be righteous Noahides and stop killing people. And yeah, free Palestine from the stupidity ideology that they have and all the stuff that they're doing. Free Palestine. Is that good? That's what you wanted? Is that what you guys mean by free Palestine? From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Yeah, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free from terrorism, from stupidity, from murdering people, from the warped ideology they have, from the Islam that's controlling them and turning them into terrorists. From, you guys like my dates? Should we do dubbing? Maybe in Arabic? Huh? Free Palestine. Yeah, you good? Until now, I've been telling you guys Palestine is free. It's Israel, but that's got old already. I got new content for my fans. All the questions in the world, that's what you ask. All the questions in the world, that's what you ask. Does one need to make a special meal on Estelle to break the fast? Well, you have PURIM breaks the fast. You have to hear the Megillah, and then you eat. So does it have to be a special feast? No, the special feast is the next day, but certainly you need to eat something unless you want to fast for another few days, but usually people have to eat after they fast the whole day. Okay. If you pray to Hashem, well, okay, let's question. If you pray to Hashem and you legitimately complain about wrong done to you by a certain person, is it Lashon Hara? Well, it depends what you mean by wrong done to you. It depends, if you have the right definition of what wrong is, but there's no Lashon Hara of you talking to Hashem. You could talk to Hashem about anybody. He obviously already knows, but you can still talk to him. You could get it off your heart. Certainly, you should talk to him about everything. You should talk to Hashem about everything. and not talk to people though. People, we talk to other people, that's a problem. That's Lashon Hara, Rechilut, all types of problems. But you talk to Hashem, you can talk to Hashem about anybody. Anybody and anything. Why is it so hard for me to do mitzvahs? I wish it was easier because then I can still do them at least. It's very easy to do mitzvot. In fact, you already do them. You may not know their mitzvot, you may not realize that you're doing them, but usually a person wakes up in the morning, you wake up. So you wake up, I wake up. Difference is, I say Modeh Lefanecha, which is a one-sentence statement to thank Hashem to give my neshama back. You may not do it, but the actual action of waking up, we both do. Then you go to the bathroom, I go to the bathroom. Difference between us is after I go to the bathroom, I thank Hashem for allowing my body to have an open miracle. An open miracle where my body actually worked, where it turned different foods that my body consumed, and it kept things that my body needs and removed things that my body does not need. So I thanked Hashem for an open miracle that's what happened. You may not thank Hashem. Perhaps you don't care if your body works, so you're okay if you're constipated for like 3, 4, 5, 6 days. You're okay if you just simply, your body stops excreting and then after about a week you die. Or you don't think you need God for it. Or you don't think it's a miracle. I bet you'll agree that it's a miracle after about, I'd say a good 48 hours of not being able to go to the bathroom. Or better yet, go to the hospital and ask them for that special treatment they give you when they put a catheter. They put a catheter into that little hole you have. And in order to help the liquids from your body get out of your body. Ask them for that special treatment they have. I promise you, after that, you will absolutely agree with me that it's a miracle that you're able to go to the bathroom without agonizing pain every single time. In reality, the way our body performs, where we're removing things from our body, should be the most painful thing in the world. It should be extremely painful. And for some people it is. So if you go to the bathroom without really much of a pain, in fact, it's relieving, that's an open miracle. The difference between us is that I say thank you, you may not. You eat, I eat. We both eat. Difference is, I say thank you to Hashem before I eat, and thank you to Hashem after I eat. I bless Him, I recognize Him, I know that I wouldn't have what to eat without Him. You may not. You don't think that you need Hashem to eat because you think that just because you have money in your pocket, that gives you food. What if you didn't have money? What if Hashem stopped giving you money? I promise you that if you lived like I used to live, where you had to borrow $1 every day in order for you to eat. Every day. You had to borrow $1 so you could eat. Because you were too proud to collect charity on the street like a homeless person. You were too productive to not be working. You wanted to work, but you couldn't get a job or didn't want a job that pays you a salary. You wanted commission. You wanted to build a business. You wanted, but you still needed money to eat. So you needed to borrow $1 every single day so you could eat. 50 cents for a donut, 50 cents for coffee. I don't think you can do that anymore in today's America, but that's what it cost back then. And I promise you, after you do that for enough time, a few months, for sure, you will recognize that you need God in order for you to have food. So the difference is, again, and I can say it until tomorrow, and we still wouldn't be finished. We both do the same thing. You wake up, I wake up. You eat, I eat. You go to the bathroom, I go to the bathroom. You have a wife, I have a wife. You procreate, well, there's a mitzvah. You may not be fulfilling the mitzvah the right way, the ideal way, but every person that procreates, every person that raises children, every person that eats, every person that drinks, every person that wakes up. In fact, even taking a shower. Even taking a shower is a form of a mitzvah. To be clean. So, we both do the same thing. The difference is recognizing the source of all blessings, recognizing the source of all strength, recognizing the source of life. Before, during, and after you do everything you do. So we both do the same thing. The only difference between us is that I do my best to recognize the source of everything. Before, during, and after I do everything that I do. And you don't. Because you think it's too hard to recognize that God gave you air. To recognize that God allowed your body to excrete without bleeding nonstop and ripping all of your tissues. You think it's too hard. I bet you it's not as hard as if any one of those body parts that you have and depend on stop working, even for a moment. Even for a moment. Even for a moment. That urethra shuts up, shuts down, needs to be surgically opened. It's a tiny little hole. Tiny, tiny. Come on, look how many big holes. Look how big your mouth is. Big mouth. Big mouth. So what's the big deal? If a tiny little hole, tiny, how? It shuts off. Shuts off, doesn't open. You say open? No. Open? No. Open? No. How you gonna open? You gotta break through with knives, cannons. Now you're gonna believe that you need God? You're gonna believe you need God. You may even sing Free Palestine with me at that point. That song that we just came up with today. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free from terrorism, from stupidity, from Islam that causes them to kill people. All that stuff. Yeah, we're going to sing that too. And we're all going to celebrate Ishtabach Shimcha La'ad. Thank you, Hashem, for allowing my body to work. Thank you. Thank you. And that's just for being able to go to the bathroom. Can you imagine how many thank yous you owe HaKadosh Baruch Hu for eating, for drinking, for having money, for having kids, for having a wife, for having a husband, for having a job, for having just simply air. Air. You're saying it's hard? I'm saying it's ungrateful. Rabbi, you're amazing. I'm a big fan of you. I just really don't understand your issue with Rabbi Manis Friedman. Rabbi Manis Friedman is not a rabbi. He's an apikoros. He's a heretic. He's a rasha. He's a machtia rabim. He's worse than Yerovam ben Nevat. And if you want to understand, then you can watch all of my lectures that I spoke against him, spoke about him, the lectures that Rabbi Ephraim spoke against him, spoke about him. These are the words of the Torah. These are the words of truth. And if you pay attention and your ears are open and your neshama is accepting the truth, then you will no longer misunderstand. Brother, why did the Vilna Gaon refuse to meet the Baal Tanya and put Chassidut on Cherem? Because he had problems with Chassidut. He thought that they are turning the rabbis into God. I'm trying to read the questions, but you guys are asking too many things, and it's hard to read because the screen keeps popping. What are you asking? Somebody's mentioning something about penny stocks, but I don't know what you're talking about. How do I stop doing Zel Batalam? My wife is on strike. If your wife is on strike, you have to check on what you did in order to deserve that strike. Why is your wife doing it? Did you do something wrong? Did you cheat on her? Did you hit her? Did you yell at her? Did you curse her? What did you do to deserve her to be on strike? If you didn't do anything and she refuses to be with you, and this is not like a one-day thing or 1 week thing or 1 month thing, but this is already months, then you have to give her a get, you have to get divorced. She's considered a Isha Moredet, a wayward wife. A wife is not allowed to withhold herself from a husband. It's a violation. And if a wife that withhold herself from a husband, she's considered a Isha Moredet. The Rambam writes that the rabbis warn her. After they warn her, they shame her. And if she still doesn't do tshuva, eventually the husband gives her a get, kicks her out, and she doesn't get any of the ketubah. She's a Isha Moredet. When family converts and has kids under 13 years old, do they get converted or they need to wait? They convert together with the parents. They're not usually asked the questions. Because they're too young. So the little kids, the boys dip with the father, the girls dip with the mother. If there's no father, then obviously the mother dips with the little kids. Then they have to go back to the Bet Din when they're 13 years old for the boys and 12 years old for the girls, or in front of the, doesn't have to necessarily be at the Bet Din, it just needs to be in front of the rabbis when they reach that age to confirm that they want to remain Jewish. But they become Jewish already as little kids, already as infants. Can a Jewish soul in heaven visit a Goyim soul in their heaven? Why would a Jewish soul want to visit a non-Jewish soul in heaven? I just don't understand the logic behind this. Why would a Jewish soul even think of such a thing? Perhaps because maybe you're connecting this world to the next world. In the next world, you're not going to be connected to a lot of the things that you're connected to right now. You're not going to be connected to that. So it's, as far as where a soul can visit, it depends on its merits. Certain souls get permission to go do certain places. Certain souls get permission to do whatever they want. It depends. But I promise you that you're not going to want to go to the non-Jewish heaven if you're in the Jewish heaven. Kolav, can you clarify the blessing on MATANOT products with cheese or fruit like pie, cheesecake, danishes? Because the hour talks about, okay, so there is a ikal v'tafel. Ikal v'tafel means that if the majority, the main part of the food is the MATANOT. Let's say, for example, you have a large cracker and a small piece of, I don't know, let's say some cheese in it. Or you have a wafer with chocolate. Now, if you eat the wafer and the chocolate separately, it's two separate blessings. But since the wafer is the principal part, it's the ikal of the food, and the chocolate is the tafel. It's the subordinate food, or the minority food. Then making a blessing on the majority food covers both of them. But if they are both majority, they're both significant. For example, if you have a rice and a big piece of chicken, okay, they're both significant. So you make a blessing for the rice and you make a blessing for the chicken. But if, let's say, there is a rice, but there's also seasoning in there, you just make a blessing for the rice. There's rice and there is, let's say, a few vegetables in the rice. You only make a blessings for the rice, because the rice is the principal food. It's the principal food. So it all depends on the what's ikar and what's tefil. The second thing a person needs to know is that just because you make a first blessing doesn't mean that you make a second blessing on everything. Everybody thinks that if you eat a piece of cake, then you automatically are going to have to do a me'ayin shalosh. This is incorrect. You don't make an ending blessing at all times for mezonot. You have to meet the qualifications. You have to eat nearly 30 grams in 4 minutes in order for you to fulfill, to do the blessing of me'ayin shalosh. Meaning that if you're going to, let's say, eat, a piece of cake, but the piece of cake is only 10 grams or 15 grams or 20 grams, then you do the first blessing of mezonot, but you don't do an after blessing. Or even if you eat an entire pie, okay, you make the blessing of mezonot, you eat an entire pie, but you eat it over 5 hours. Then you don't, unless you eat those first 30 grams within 4 minutes, there's no after blessing. There's no after blessing. So that's another thing. There's a lot of details, a lot of nuances to blessings. It's not like a one size fits all, but I can assure you that most people that don't learn the halachot and the details of blessings, for sure, are making mistakes. And it's important to learn them. It's not something that you can learn 1, 2, 3. There's some basics you can learn 1, 2, 3. What to bless is the first blessing for everything. You can learn that in a relatively short period of time. But to know when to make the after blessing, when to make only one blessing versus multiple blessings, and so on, that is not something that is so simple. It's not so simple. I attend an event in a conservative. Can I attend an event in a conservative synagogue? Just like you're not allowed to go to a church, you're not allowed to go to a conservative synagogue. But if the conservative synagogue has a hall that's separate from where they pray, they have, a wedding hall, they have something like that, that's not where they pray, then you can go into that place. It's better you don't, if it's going to be a conservative type of party. But if it's a kosher party and it's not in their place they pray, then there's less of an issue in it. But if it's where they pray, you're not allowed to enter. My friend made Aliyah this summer. She said she wants to place her kids in Kippah Skula Yeshiva, not a very Haredi one. What does this mean? There's different levels. There's different, levels of religiosity to a certain extent. Differences between them. Some of them are more modern than the Haredi, but that's not in all cases. There are some Kippah Sugad that are very, very righteous and very, very serious, but they relate more to the customs of that particular community. And then there are some Haredi people that are claim to be Haredi, but they're Reshaim. So just because someone is Haredi doesn't mean that they're or they're part of the Haredi community doesn't mean that they're automatically righteous. Some of them are righteous, some of them are not. Same thing with Kippah Sugah. Some of them are righteous, some of them are not. Same thing with anything else, even non-Jews. Some of them are righteous, some of them are not. So we can't stereotype that just because somebody wears a certain type of kippah, that makes them righteous or that doesn't make them righteous. The key is whether they observe the Torah laws or not. If they observe the laws of the Torah, then they're righteous. If they ignore the laws of the Torah, they're wicked. Simple. I'm a 10th grade. Keep moving. What do I think about rabbis marrying gay people? That's not a rabbi, it's a heretic. Torah forbids homosexuality. I'm a 10th grade high school student from India, so should I drop out and go to Eretz Yisrael to practice Judaism and continue education in Israeli public schools? You should never go to Israeli public schools or anybody who's got public school. Whether you should convert to Judaism or not, that depends on your life, your belief system, and in your age, your parents. Why did they against them? What are you saying? Why are they against it? Because the Torah is against it. Great dragon cast out. I don't know what that means. Can you explain more about how the Old Testament exposes the New Testament? I've done several lectures about the falsehood of the New Testament, and there's many examples of it, same ones that I repeat many times. One of them is that it says in 3 places, no less than 3 places in the Old Testament, in the Torah, that Yaakov came down to Egypt with 70 souls. In the New Testament, it says 75. So obviously the New Testament is wrong. And the location of MATANOT LaEvyonim, the key of Machpelah, is not only written in the Torah in multiple places, but it's something you can go see today. And in the New Testament, they have the wrong address, they have the wrong city. And many, many other types of examples. If you just type in the search of my channel, you go to the search box of the channel itself, and you go to our app, and you type Christianity, or Jesus, or Yeshua, or New Testament, just type in those words, you'll see a bunch of different lectures that I've done with many other proofs that Christianity is falsehood and unfortunately is considered 100% idol worship, which means that all of those that follow the New Testament are considered idol worshippers. And we try to help them whenever they come to us and they want to abandon idolatry and become either righteous Noahides or convert to Judaism. We're more than happy to guide them in any way that we can for free. Many of them have actually abandoned Christianity and have become either righteous Noahides. Some of them have even gone on to the conversion to Judaism path, and some have even succeeded in converting to Judaism and living fantastic lives full of Torah, full of mitzvot. But some people ignore the truth and continue living a lie. So, you could try to help people, but you can't force them. Okay. Should a Haredim go to the IDF, to the army? It's better that the secular people go to the yeshiva and to learn Torah than the Haredim go to the army. Is he allowed to go to the army? Yeah, he's allowed to do what he wants with his life. But should he go? No. He should go and learn Torah. Same thing like the secular person should also go and learn Torah. If everybody goes and learns Torah, we won't need an army. Won't need an army. Can people convert to Judaism? Yes. Not only they can convert to Judaism, but even my wife is a convert. And if you want to watch the story of how that happened, in that story, it's on my channel. The name of the film is called Hashem Took Back His Millions. It's a fantastic and inspirational story, and also a big part of the reason of why I help many converts that want to convert on their own. I don't convince anyone to convert. I simply tell people the truth. They choose for themselves. Do you pray to the dead rabbis? I don't pray to people. I pray to God. But the merits of the righteous rabbis and sages of Judaism are certainly people and souls that you want to connect to by learning their Torah. And if you're at a level where you could even, pray that they use their merits to pray for you, to help you, sure. But we only pray to God. We don't pray to people, not living or dead. Why are you ignoring Nida 44, 9 to 12? I have no idea what you're talking about, but perhaps you could elaborate. Can anyone do a brit milah, or does it have to be a rabbi? It has to be a Jew, and it has to be someone that is knows the laws of how to do a brit milah. It can't just cut whatever they deem fit. There are certain things that have to take place as far as the brit milah. They don't necessarily need to be a rabbi of a community, but they have to be a certified mohel that learned the laws and details of how to do a brit milah, has training by an expert, and not just simply a doctor. If you got a circumcision by a doctor, then many times the circumcision does not follow all the laws of Judaism, which require a second surgery, because they don't take off certain parts. And sometimes when they do, if somebody did this, they would still have to do what's called atafat adam in order to convert, which is they would prick the male member in order to generate some blood, and that's for that sake. They won't have to do circumcision because there's nothing to cut, but there's still atafat adam. But if you are in the process of converting, don't do a circumcision on your own. Only do it once the rabbis tell you, the Bet Din tells you to do it, because if you do it on your own, it's very possible that the Bet Din will not want to convert you ever. Because they'll take you as somebody that's rebellious. Should we have a Haredi division in the army who learns Torah as soldiers? Yes, we do. We have. They're in the yeshivot. Why do they have to be in the desert? They're in yeshivot, of course. 1,000, 1,000. Elef lamaneh, elef lamaneh. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu says. Sure. Alvai, we had as many people learning in yeshivot as we do soldiers. Alvai, I wish we had as many people learning Torah as we do soldiers, but we have a lot more people that are soldiers than we have people in yeshivot. What's your opinion of Yeshiva University? It's more university than yeshiva. What to do if your artificial insemination mother was adopted, have no family history, but you have Jewish traits? I have no idea what you're saying. I'm sorry. That's just simply too convoluted of a question to ask publicly. I would have to know more privately what you're talking about. I'm a new convert, learned so much from you. Thank you, Rabbi. Very good. My wife and I enjoy your channel. Shalom Aleichem. Chazak u'baruch. If somebody experiences any type of bleeding on Shabbat or otherwise, they should clean themselves. And if it's uncontrollable, call 911. Go to the hospital. All right, I started chemotherapy. A doctor recommended I go to a sperm bank as a precaution since I don't have children yet. Is this considered wasting seed? Yes. It's not allowed. Is Jews going to grave sites of righteous people considered idol worship? It depends. If they're praying to the person, then yes. If they're praying to God, then no. Be not you called rabbi for one, what? I'm idol worshiper. Is Tinder allowed? I don't know what Tinder is. You mentioned that there weren't women warriors in half a shekel. Huh? You mentioned that there wasn't women warriors in half a shekel. Counting yet in Devorah, Batis, with battles with Canaan, there was one. What's the view on that? Devorah wasn't a warrior, so I'm not really sure what cartoon you watched to make you think that Devorah was a warrior, but she wasn't a warrior. She was a prophet, but she wasn't a warrior. It's two different things. Can Jews use Tinder? I don't know what Tinder is. Tinder is a dating app. If it's a kosher dating app, yes. If it's not a kosher dating app, no. What do you think about Rabbi Solomon, who owns Pornhub? How can he still pretend to be a rabbi? I already spoke about him. There's a clip about him that we made. He's a rasha. He's not a rabbi. He's going to go to Gehinnom and MATANOT. Who's more close to the term of Bnei Noach, Islam or Christian? Well, Islam, is most opinions are that it's not idolatry. So they're not idol worshippers, according to most opinions. There are some opinions, like the Rogachev Gaon, Klosenberger Rebbe, and some other Chachamim say that Islam is idolatry. Either way, most don't paskin that way, so they're not idol worshippers. They're wicked, when they follow the details of the Quran that talked about anti-Semitism and hatred of Jews, but it's not idolatry. Therefore, you're allowed to go in. A Jew is allowed to enter a mosque. Christianity, on the other hand, is considered idolatry. Because they pray to a person, they say that God is three, the virgin birth. There's multiple parts of it that are full of idolatry. So therefore, a Jew is never allowed to go and enter a church. So in both cases, you have major issues. Now, currently, there is more, war with physical war between the Jews and Islam. But that wasn't always the case. If you look at the track record, the Christians have caused much more damage and killed many more Jews than the Muslims did. And I'm not just talking about the Holocaust. You could just go back a few hundred years and Look at what the Crusaders did to the Jews. Literally, they would go to town and literally annihilate an entire Jewish town. In one day, they would kill everybody. They wouldn't even turn them into anything. They would literally just chop off their heads, kill them in horrific ways, one after another. And this is, anybody learns a little history, what the Crusaders did to us in the name of Christianity is, much, much worse than what happened on October 7th in Israel recently. Much worse. They used to literally go from town to town and kill everybody. 6,000, 7,000, 5,000, 10,000, big and small towns. They just literally kill everyone. They killed many Chachamim too. There was a lot of massacres about 400 years ago also. So, does that mean that all Christians today are bad as far as enemies of the Jews in that sense? No. Some are, some aren't. Does that mean that all people that are Muslim are enemies of the Jews? No. Some people are decent, some people are bad. So as far as the people themselves, it's, again, they don't necessarily always follow the bad teachings that is stated in their book. There are many anti-Semitic teachings in Christianity as well as in Islam. But at the same token, not everyone that calls himself a Christian or everyone that calls themselves a Muslim follows all of those teachings. Does that mean that we could be best friends and marry each other's kids? Absolutely not. No. The Jews will always be the Jews, and the others will be the others. As far as who's closest to being a Noahide, whoever makes themselves closest to abandoning their false beliefs is closest. Because the reason why, it's not so simple to just say that Islam is closest to being Noahides than Christianity, is because it's much easier for a Christian to abandon the idolatry of Christianity and join Judaism than it is for a typical Muslim to abandon Islam and go to Judaism. Throughout history and right now, it's much, much easier ideologically, socially. It's much easier for them. I have some students that used to be Christian and now are Jews, and used to be Muslims and now are Jews. I have both. But if you compare the two, and anyone that deals with converts will tell you the same. The amount of former Christians that convert to Judaism or just abandon Christianity, become righteous Noahites, versus the amount of Muslims that abandon Islam and convert to Judaism. I don't really know of any of them that become righteous Noahites, to be honest with you. Most of them either convert to Judaism or they stay Muslim. Just try to be decent. The amount, there's much more on the former Christian side. So as far as the way that you could explain that is that it's it's not just the belief in the book that makes up the decisions of what the people are going to do. There's also the culture. There's also the personal experiences that the people had. There's also the risks. There is much more risk for the life of a Muslim to convert to Judaism than the risk for a Christian to convert to Judaism. Meaning that most Christians in the world, if they decide to abandon Christianity and become Jews, generally speaking, their life is not going to be at risk. More times than not, their families will still accept them, and even sometimes be more welcoming. Some will reject them, some will not talk to them, but that's a minority. The majority will continue talking to their kids, they'll continue talking to each other, they'll have somewhat of an amicable relationship. Of course, the belief systems have changed, but nonetheless, you can maintain those relationships. In Islam, on the other hand, more times than not, for a Muslim to leave Islam and become a Jew, it's a life risk. Meaning that they risk somebody in their family killing them. Why? Because that's part of the belief system. It's part of the culture. I have a couple of times where I've had students that that wanted to convert to Judaism. Part of their conversion was literally fleeing their families, their friends, and like disconnecting, like they were, escaping a jail. Like they can't talk, they can't, they have to completely disconnect altogether, never talk again. Why? Because they know that the second that their families find out where they are, they'll probably kill them. And I've even had one time that one of the people, actually their family somehow found out where they were and they almost killed them. So it's not so simple. It's not so simple. So it's the culture, it's the belief system, there's a lot of things, a lot of issues. I want to start reading the holy book of the Jewish. Start with the Chumash, or it's called the 5 Books of Moses, with the commentary, which explains to you what's actually written by Rashi. I suggest you go to a website called ArtScroll, artscroll.com, and type in either 5 Books of Moses or Chumash, which is Chumash, and you'll see over there the stone edition Chumash, and that's the 5 Books of Moses with some basic level commentary to explain to you what the verses actually mean, and you can go through that and start understanding some of the parts of the Torah and grow from there. And then, of course, continue watching lectures, continue understanding the many other details beyond what you're reading. Okay, Rabotai, it's been amazing, and I enjoyed it, but it's time to go. Time to go, even though there's, Baruch Hashem, many of you watching online right now. I need to finish a few things that unfortunately the clock is ticking on them for the organization, and I need to utilize the time. But I'm glad that we were able to learn for a couple of hours. Anyone that enjoyed this and wants to watch more, you could simply go to our YouTube page or our BeEzrat HaShem phone app or our website, bhtorah.org, and just type in, or just go to those sites and you'll see a bunch of lectures, thousands of them, Baruch Hashem, short ones, long ones, and you can watch many of them. If you like this type of style, then type in Stump the Rabbi. There's a whole series, almost 200 videos. So there's enough for you to watch, not only until the next time we learn together, but for many more times. And if you want to help us continue doing all the wonderful things that we're doing, you could donate on any one of those places and in the websites, on YouTube. You could become one of these paid subscribers. That's really a donation. On Facebook, on the app. So many ways, there's plenty of ways for you to donate. And last but not least, for the Jewish people especially, the mitzvot of PURIM start now. There's the MaChatzit HaShekel, and there's also the MATANOT LaEvyonim. You could do both of them on our campaign page, bhpurim.org. We use all of that money to feed poor people in Eretz Yisrael that are also going to be praying and learning Torah for us. So you get a double benefit out of donating to that campaign, and BeEzrat HaShem, we will succeed. Thank you very much for learning with me. May HaKadosh Baruch Hu bless each and every single one of you that's learning, that's getting closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that wants to do the will of Hashem and is doing their best to get there. And BeEzrat HaShem, we will continue learning again next week. More stuff, more Torah, more opportunities to learn, to enjoy, and most importantly, to be holy. Bracha v'atzlacha and Shabbat Shalom.